shook under pressure. And that's an answer for you. That answers something about me, because one of the things about you is I think you can handle the pressure. So let's see it, because he knows his coach and his teammates. And that's more pressure than what you put on yourself. Because now when you get in that huddle on Sunday, you know that the eyes looking back at you, they put their ass on the line for you. And they said, hey, Brian's our guy. So now you got to go out there and do it. Or you've
okay, now are you getting a lot of the same stuff that I'm getting? Like, this is Hoyer's consolation prize. This is, let him finish out the last 4 games because he's not going to be here next year anyway.
Well, no, there's a lot of people. I've had some fans make that, statement as far as, well, let him finish out the season. He'll be done. I mean, I do believe for the most part that could be true, but we don't know. Again, the fact that the Browns still didn't go with Manziel yet does give me some questions about where they see him at in his development. So I don't know, because I can't truly answer that, because they could be behind the scenes going, look, man, people don't know what we really know, or they could be going, man, we can't wait to unleash this kid on the world. Who knows what but that's part of it, is what are they thinking behind the scenes, and we don't exactly know that. But I mean, I can tell you that I don't believe Brian Hoyer comes back here as a backup unless nobody offers him the opportunity to start. Then I think he would choose being a backup in Cleveland over being a backup anywhere else. But I just don't see it working. I mean, I can still see. I know people will tell me I'm nuts, but let's just say Hoyer goes 3-1 here down the stretch and the Browns do win the division. I absolutely believe that the Browns would try to get a short-term deal with him. The problem is, does Brian Hoyer want short-term money? I don't know if he does or if he doesn't. He may realize that that's his best scenario is, hey, be the quarterback for the Browns one more year and then see what happens.
See where I'm at from there.
You know what I mean? So that's all a dynamic left to be played. But, hey, man, that question can answer itself on Sunday, because if the Browns lose and Hoyer plays poorly, because there's X factors. If the Browns lose but the offense plays well, they wouldn't necessarily make a change next week. They may in week 15 or 16, but you know what I mean? They would, or 17, they wouldn't necessarily make a change. Now, just like if they win and he plays poorly, they're not going to make a change either. So there's a lot of dynamics still in play for the next week or so before we know for sure.
Doesn't this Browns roster kind of resemble the Indians at the end of the season? I mean, we're waiting for a playoff spot.
Yep.
Everybody's AAA. Pretty much the coach is coaching better than the guy that's going to win Manager of the Year. And, with nothing to work with. I mean, I was just sitting here thinking last night, that, this looks like, the Indians roster at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, really, wore down and plugging in holes wherever you can. All hands on deck is a good term. They've been using it around Berea a lot. And all hands on deck. Yeah, the next man up is pretty much gone because there is no next man. They're all used. Fourth man up is what we're saying in Berea now at this point, Anybody got a backup lineman? Anybody, it's tough.
Okay, but you're still breathing, you're in.
That's it. No, seriously, at this point, I'm looking at the depth chart, and Ryan Taylor will be the backup tight end if Cameron is ruled out for the game here. It'll be Dre and Ryan Taylor. And for those of you going, who? I'm to tell you the same thing, because he wasn't on the roster until a couple of weeks ago, man. He was picked up off of waivers, which is cool. I mean, I know he's a prospect that some people feel strong about. But again, you're going who, because the cat didn't come out of training camp with this team.
You can do that with a couple offensive linemen, and you can do it with a running back. I mean, these guys were on other teams' practice squads at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely, And again, it's a testament. I'll give it to them being able to find, because you know what? We've seen this before, and they find guys that lose. So we've been able to see that.
You're basically beyond the warm body,
exactly.
segment.
Bruce, my man, I got to let you go. My man. I appreciate the phone call. I do believe I've got the BSK Kendall Lewis joining me from the road. Perfect time to jump in on this conversation. Thanks to Bruce for the call again. Kendall, is this you, my friend? It was. Where'd you go, my man? I dumped Bruce, the caller. Great phone call. I know that was Kendall because he just texted me and told me that he was available to jump in on this conversation for a second. I said, all right, perfect. Let's get Kendall Lewis here on the phone. But he dumped out on us there. All right, 216-53. Actually, we should take a break, and it should be just about that time. Yeah, T-minus less than 10 minutes to go. So I'm going to give Kendall Lewis here about 30 seconds to give me a buzz back. I think I've got him here now. Kendall, my man, is this you?
Yes, sir.
What's up, my friend?
How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. That was actually perfect because we were just talking, a caller, about this, the Browns and the quarterback this week, and you hit me up. I said, let's do it. I'll tie this right in. Perfect. Glad to have you back with us, and I'm sure that you've got some thoughts as well on the Browns and what they did and or didn't do this week at quarterback and what they face now going into the Colts game on Sunday.
Well, I always thought that since you are in a playoff race, there's no way they could turn the keys to the car over to Johnny Manziel. I think it has everything to do with his experience. It has everything to do with his level of readiness. It has everything to do with what Brian Hoyer has done, who he is, what the Browns' record is, what they have at stake. It's just too many variables to plug in Johnny Manziel at this time. Now, when the time comes, I said this yesterday, that if and when the Browns fall out of the playoff race, that'll be a time when you can expect to see Johnny Manziel. For all you Manziel minions out there, that'll be that time. But think about it this way. I told you since maybe the three-quarter pole in the season, in the second quarter of the season, that the Browns could lose every game they played going forward, and they could win every game they played going forward. Knowing the NFL, my guess is they probably wouldn't do that. So I figured they'd win where they're supposed to lose and lose where they're supposed to win. That's life in the NFL. And so this last quarter of the season, this all-important fourth quarter, is the exact same. I don't think the Browns will make the playoffs even if they go 4-0 to finish 11-5. I just think there's too many teams in the AFC who are going to finish that way, 11-5. But I would say that if Brian Hoyer keeps the Browns in the playoff hunt till the last moment, you can't rightly replace him. And so I think even though they have a daunting schedule, this week Indianapolis, next week Cincinnati, and the Panthers and the Ravens, I think they could win all four games easily and find themselves 11-5. And who knows, they may even squeak into the playoffs. So they couldn't switch out their quarterback at this time.
That's the same point that we've been making here. I think people in Cleveland are so used to looking to next year and getting ready for next year and all of that they got in that mode so quick. But what you said, I mean, I know it's 7-5 and it is what it is. But at the same time, how long has it been since you've been there? I keep reminding people that. I'm like, you must be used to these 12 and 13 win seasons. And so this season is kind of a down season for you here as a Browns fan because they're playing good football, competitive football. Not there's bad games as well, but they're still winning games down the stretch. But Joe Thomas said yesterday exactly, we were just saying this before you called. He said, you can't look at us. You can't tell me that we're not giving up on the rest of the season because we want to see what the kids got next year. And I do believe that when Mike Pettin talked to all of his veterans, and he said that, they all looked at him and said, Brian is our guy, and we believe in him, and that made his decision for him in my mind. And I'm with you. You can't, first off, people need to look behind the scenes and realize, forget Hoyer. There's a reason that they have not yet pulled the trigger on Johnny, and you guys need to stop and think about that because there's a reason that they haven't made what I think is the easy decision, which is to just throw the kid out there. Because now, am I wrong? You have no more responsibility for winning and losing. If you throw the kid out there, you go 0-4. People will be like, yay, we got to see Johnny. We weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. To me, the tough decision was sticking the course and trying to win these games and seeing what you can do when everybody wanted you to just look forward to next year. And by the way, I remind people that all of you who said that, I've got your names written down. You can no longer complain about trading for draft picks. You can no longer complain about getting ready for next year in any sport, because you just told me it was okay now, but it's not okay for anybody else when they do it. But, you know, what do you think? Seriously, you and I have talked about Brian Hoyer, his ups and downs. Before you called in, I was saying that to me, he knows. Forget the pressure that he puts on himself. He knows that his coach just put his ass on the line for him, with the media, with the ownership, with all of that. He knows that his players, when he looks in that huddle, Joe Thomas put his ass on the line for him. To me, I think you're either going to get the best Brian Hoyer you can get this weekend, or he folds under pressure and you learn something either way.
Well, the first thing we have to understand is that his all-world tight end is not there.
Oh, yeah.
His all-world receiver isn't all together there yet. He's playing with some rookie running backs who sometimes like to put the ball on the ground and run sideways. His all-world center is gone. His defense is taking hits of attrition left and right every week. Now he's lost Miles Austin. And granted, Miles Austin wasn't all that, but I say all of that to say that the Cleveland Browns are doing a bang-up job with the players that they still have in tow. I'm amazed when I can turn on the radio and they're in a game. That having been said, I think Brian Hoyer is what we see. And I also think that playing against the Buffalo Bills, I told you guys this last week. I told you in the Browns Outlook podcast, and I told you anywhere you would listen, that the Buffalo Bills are a formidable team. Not unbeatable, not intractable, but a formidable team with the best pass rush in the NFL and a quarterback who has some movement skills, but he is by no means a scrambler or a runner. I told you that. So to say that they lost to Buffalo and now the sky is falling, that would be inaccurate, just as Brian Hoyer's passes have been inaccurate all this season. I don't think Brian Hoyer's played well all year, but he's played well enough to have the Browns at 7-5 in the thick of a playoff hunt. Again, that having been said, I think we all know, last year we didn't know what we had in Brian Hoyer, but we knew there was something interesting there that could possibly, bear fruit. Now this year we saw some of those things, but by and large we haven't seen it. We haven't seen the quick release, the good decisions, all of those things. And the reason why partly is because he's still healing from the injury he suffered last year. And the other reason is the pressure attended to Johnny Manziel. What do you not need coming back from last year? A quarterback controversy. So what did the Browns do in their infinite wisdom but to take a guy who instantly brings about a quarterback controversy? And so that makes him, that makes Brian Hoyer nervous, catty, inaccurate, slow on the trigger, all of those things. So I just think that we know what Brian Hoyer is by now, but I think he's going to get better as he heals and gets better physically able to deal with the rigors of playing quarterback, and doesn't have the pressure of losing his job to a non-playing, short fraternity boy quarterback like Johnny Manziel.
Kendall, what you just said hits the nail on what I say is the difference in how people look at Brian Hoyer. If you look at Brian and you believe that he is a set-in-stone finished product and he will, this is it. He will never adapt, improve, get stronger, any of that. This is the die is cast. Well, then you look at him one way. But to me, I do believe, I'm not saying he's got an all-world ceiling, but I do believe that he has a lot of room for growth, a lot of room not just to improve mentally, physically, as you said, getting stronger. First time going through the rigors of an entire season. How many times do we talk about pitchers who had a down year because it was their first year pitching 200 innings or whatever, and they had to build up the strength? Because I do believe that is part of the reason his accuracy has gotten worse in the later part of the season.